What is up? We're back. Working on the Aristo, and guess what? You can already tell from the title, but cars on the lift, we're finishing the exhaust. So what we got to do, I'll show you what we got to do. Let me show you what we got to do. All right, so the plan is to get stuff apart that we know needs to come apart. So I started taking the heat shields off. I've got to get the exhaust semi off so that we can cut and utilize the stuff that is already there that we're going to be keeping. So one side of the factory Y pipe will stay, and then the tubing for pre and post factory mid muffler thing, but then we have to connect it to this muffler here. But also we have to make sure we have a place for our cutout so that it works right. First, I'm gonna get things apart, then I'll check back in with you guys. All right, so after doing a lot of looking, I decided to make a cut here, and then I held a piece of 3-inch tubing up, and it basically fits perfectly in here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut these. These lines are just a little bit on the large side. So like basically the tubing actually lands just outside of these lines. So I'm hoping I can slip a piece of 3-inch down in here and then just weld these on that. And then the cutout will end up right here. Get a V-band or something like that back in here. And then it'll run a piece of 3-inch tubing here and then here. And basically what we'll do is just come off of here and just cut over. Probably have to trim this heat shield a bit, but the tubing is going to run like parallel to this muffler, but off to one side. So, or maybe just straight shot. We'll see what I've got room for once everything else is kind of out of the way. I went ahead and unbolted up there, but I'm going to chop this thing. I'm using my dad's little snap-on Sawzall. This thing is pretty rad. I have the DeWalt version, and it's really nice, except for the fact that I left it at the house. So we're going to chop it up with this guy, and I'll show you what it looks like after. Okay, so this is what we're left with. I got this guy. You can see I cut it at a big, long, kind of scalloped angle. And then this guy is the same way. You can see the teardrop type shape there. Cut there. And then this guy is on the floor. So obviously this piece right here is going to go away. And then we'll get a V-band or something right here. That way, yeah, it'll just be a nicer setup. So I'm hoping that this piece of 3-inch is going to go and work up in here, and I'll be able to basically just cut some big scalloped holes and basically just weld these to it. I think that would work out really nicely. So I need to figure out my length with my cutout, which is right here. This guy right here is my length of tubing, but right there is my cutout, and that is going to go right behind this little merge. So let me grab this cutout. So basically this guy is going to end up over here somewhere. Probably like right there. That way it's kind of facing in the right direction a little bit, and it's pretty high, so you don't have to worry about whacking it on anything. Then I have a place to run the wiring, either up here with the cables and just run it down the tunnel and go up in the engine bay, or I can even choose to come back into the trunk because the trunk is right here. So yep, I'm gonna cut my tubing down to get an idea of where this needs to go, and then we're gonna try to get things started being connected. Okay, so I went off the deep end a little bit. I cut the 2-bolt flange off of there. I'm gonna be adding a V-band set up here. This is the mid pipe, just to be clear. So I pulled that off, cut this guy down. It'll be a little bit shorter than it would have been originally by a couple inches, but I think this will make it a lot nicer. Have one of these guys on the end of here, no more gaskets. And then I got my long section of tubing. I'm gonna go ahead and weld this one on there and get that one positioned correctly. Okay, so these V-bands, they are from my buddy Chris at Rise Fab, and they were a set that he was having made by some guys, and wanted me to try them out, check them out. So I got them for this car, and I don't really know. They don't fit as good as like the Vibrant stuff. They're still very nice, and the machining is really nice, but they just don't quite fit on the tubing as I would have expected, because it actually fits inside, even though it does actually have a receiver groove. Now, I'm sure he's had this fixed because, yeah, he knows what he's doing, and he welds with these things all the time. But yeah, so now that because this doesn't have a receiver groove, you've got a lot of movement here. So I'm going to be, yeah, I have to get the long tube welded up because I know that I can get that one straight. Then I can put the long piece in and position it how I want it, and then I can tack the mid pipe, pull it back off, weld it up, etc., etc. So a little bit of extra work, but I think in the long run this is going to be a much better product, less exhaust leaks, because this thing definitely had some, because you could see water dripping out from underneath. And being that this thing's on ethanol, you see a lot of water, so that's just part of it. But yep, here we go. All right, piece one is welded up. Gonna let it cool down. I bolted to this big piece of aluminum, which is actually a head flange back purge, keep it from warping flange, for a 2J. So you can bolt a 2J head flange to this, and you can actually use it to make manifold fixtures, but it's for a exhaust side. But it also works out really well that because it has a bunch of different bolt holes, I usually will use it with large washers as a heat sink for my V-bands. So that guy needs to go back up in here now that I have that welded. Well, as usual, we've gone off the deep end a little bit. So once I got it all back in there and looked, I realized just how low that flange, the V-band, would have sat, and I probably would have hit it on things. All right, check this thing out. So we are definitely no longer the lowest point. So all of that is obviously new, but let's see if I can get a shot of this. Right about there is as high up as I can go, but we're no longer the lowest point. There's the frame rail here, there's a stud over here, but this might be a better shot like this to get an idea. But you can see it fits a lot better. So now we're coming back here. You can kind of see where I'm going here with this right here. So that is, my cut is okay, but not great. I think what I'm going to do is basically buzz this thing off right here. Same with the other one, and then maybe make a slip-on piece that'll be stainless and then connect to this somehow. Same for this one here. But what I've done is I've started welding up the actual cutout. So you can see down in there, this guy comes completely apart so that you can weld everything on. So this will end up being welded, I think, to another V-band, which will be going right here. I haven't definitely set on the V-band here. What might happen is the V-band might be over here somewhere once I have this guy all ready to go in there and cool down. So I've got some decisions to make here, and it's starting to get kind of late. So we might have to, well, we definitely have to resume this on a different day, but I'm going to see how far I can get once this thing's cooled down.
3 days later.
All right. So I came down here with every intention on filming everything that I did, but then I didn't. I got on a roll, and and I knocked out a lot of the fabrication on the exhaust. So let me turn you guys around and let you guys check this out, see where I'm at, and tell you a little bit of where I still have to go, and then we'll get to hear this thing. All right, so as you can see, I did get pretty far. Got a V-band here on the muffler now, and then all new tubing through here. You can see I got it tucked up nice and tight. This side is zip tied up where it needs to be. You can see the factory mid muffler and stuff is just still hanging out in here. And this I have kind of zip tied in place, but now you can see this guy, which is what makes it all the magic happen. So when this is open, the exhaust will go straight out the one side. Now, when it is closed, that's where things get interesting. It will sound nearly identical to the old exhaust. Why? Because these mid mufflers will be back in place. They're going to intersect before this valve. The exhaust will get diverted into these. Now on this side, it's going to go out all the factory stuff, and then out here, exhaust leak, but out here, just like it was. Now, on this side, it will go into the factory mid muffler. Come in here. Now you can see it is not connected. This will intersect back with this. So all that will do is force the exhaust through these two mid factory mufflers. What's great about that is this thing had no drone on the interstate because of these guys. Now, it also had zero sound above like 4,000 RPMs. So when this is open, it will blast through this one pipe and out this one muffler. So we'll still have a muffler, so it should still sound awesome. This vibrant muffler should really do work in getting any rasp or anything like that out. Now, as you can see, I have some welding to do still, and I have some here. I have most of this V-band, and then I believe on the top of here is, yes, on the top of here as well. Now, let me show you what I had to make. So this right here is an expanded piece of 2-inch, and this side slips over the factory stuff, and this side slips inside this vibrant V-band. So you can see it's got the quick release on it. Now, why do we do that? Because I want to make this serviceable. So this guy will go into here and intersect back into here. Obviously, it's going to be more like here. And then there will be a piece of tubing coming off to intersect into here. Now, I did expand this side here to go on the other side of this, and then I have plenty of tubing. Now, I had this V-band left over from something else, so I'm going to utilize that, but obviously you can see it's like 2 1/4, I believe. There's the part number. But it might even be 2 1/2. So I had to expand this piece of, it must be 2 1/2, because this is 2 1/4, and I had to expand it to fit nicely in here. Now, why am I using this smaller tubing when I could just go big? Well, it doesn't really matter because this side is small. So if anything, it's not going to change anything. This side might have a little bit different sound coming out than this side, just because the tubing is going to be a little bit larger. That's going to be about it. Now, I was going to try to just fully scallop these guys in, but I was hoping that this 3-inch would be the exact same width as the factory like merge, but it's not. It's a little bit bigger, and it just doesn't quite work as nicely. So it's going to get this guy that slips over here. Still a good merge into there. This guy will be over here like this, little double expansion joint. Now those are going to get welded onto the factory mid mufflers. They're going to get cut down. These guys will get cut at a big angle like that, and we'll go directly in and get welded on. And that's that. So we obviously have some work to do still, and I'm going to try to knock this out. Now we still have to wire everything. That's going to take some time because I have to snake all the wiring up into the trunk somewhere and then put the controller, because this has a little key fob. So that'll stick with the keys in this thing, and I'll have a sport mode whenever it's open. Yeah, eventually I want it to be controlled by the Haltech, but I got to figure that out because it is its own little self-contained box with a key fob. So it's looking for a remote signal versus a ground or a power trigger. So we got to see how that works. Hopefully we can figure it out. Then we can have a sport mode. Okay, so all right, we got this factory mid muffler all welded up. Added a V-band down here with our little adapto piece. Clean this guy off over here so that this can go cleanly into this guy, which I cut down a little bit so you guys can see there is a little bit of play. That's going to be just fine. I coped this end so that when it's connected to the pipe, it's got a nice fitment to the actual 3-inch pipe. So that's modified, that's sanded off. Okay, so I think the move is to fit up the one side that is getting reintegrated and everything back in. That way it holds everything where it's supposed to be and has another hanger attached. Then what I'd like to do is, with the valve open, give it a few revs, like fire it up, let you guys hear this thing. I want to know what it sounds like just straight open. I guess, straight sport mode out the one side. See what it sounds like. It should sound really good. But first, I need to drill our hole in the tubing and then get the mid muffler hung back up. All right. So we got our hole cut, and I was going to use a hole saw, but that didn't work out. But got our hole cut, cleaned it out with a carbide. It's got a pretty good flow there. You guys can see that pipe will get welded into there. So I'm going to tack this here first, and then make sure the muffler's positioned where I want it, and then probably tack and weld the muffler as much as I can. So that'll be where we pick up now. So that's going to be next. All right, I'm getting pretty excited now. Got all that done. It's being supported all by itself. It will be even better because it's sagging kind of down like this right now once I have this integrated. But as of right now, other than welding the tops, this side is plumbed back in. I'm really excited with how this ended up working. You can see my V-band there. It's a vibrant, but it's got a quick release on it here, which will be really nice. The reason I'm doing that is because this pipe here is removable, and that's going to basically just loop right into that pipe. I've got a bend for that and all of that, but so obviously I still need to finish welding, integrate the other side, and then wire everything, but I can't wait. I want to hear what this thing sounds like. So I'm going to drop it down and we're going to fire it up. All right, you guys can hear that it is idling. It's considerably quieter than I thought it would have been in like sport mode, because I just basically took the flapper and I just like zip tied it up to where it's just straight through. I'm going to put you guys down and let you guys hear this thing just revving a little bit. This thing's turning out so good. I'm super excited. I'm kind of losing my voice a little bit. 'Tis the season, guys. 'Tis the season. I'm going to go and weld as much as I can, and then we're going to drop it down. And then whenever I'm ready to bolt the motor and stuff on, that's when I'll check back in. So, a few minutes. All right. Look at that. As I trip over a box of acetone. But there it is, in its glory. That's all of it. So now it's pretty obvious how this thing works. You got the exhaust that comes down the center. When the valve is closed, it diverts it into both of these. It'll go out both sides normally, like how it would have stock. But when it's open, I'm sure there still will be a little exhaust going in either side, but mainly it's just going to go straight out the one side. All right, it's time to put this thing back up in there, get the electrical portion of the valve reinstalled, run some wires up in the engine bay, and this thing's pretty much ready. I'm excited. Yeah, that's rad. That's perfect for this car. I'll be able to fire it up at the house as long as I remember to close it before I shut it off, and leave once the kids are in bed, and come home once the kids are in bed. But when we're out cruising around, I can open it up, and it'll be noisy-er. Still pretty quiet, but it'll be noisier. Got some stuff to finalize under the engine bay. As you can see, it wasn't exactly, we were just holding it on the terminals. So I'm going to tidy it up a little bit, and that's pretty much it. Thing's ready to go. I think I'm going to close the video out here. I hope you enjoyed my super overcomplicated exhaust, but I think it's totally worth it. The next video, we'll take this thing out and do some rips with it. Closed and open, and then see if this thing overboosts. So, because supposedly, once you open the exhaust up on these factory JDM twins, and basically give it 0 restrictions on the way out, they tend to overboost. But that's okay, because we have fueling for it. So really, it doesn't matter that much as long as we don't, leave us stranded because the factory turbos blow up or something like that. But we're going to fix that too before long. We have an intercooler to install still, and then we're going to do twins to single, and then there's a bunch of SC drift car content coming. So stay tuned. If you're through this whole video, let me know what you thought about the different videos going through the process of building a custom exhaust. And let me know if you think this is way too complicated, or if you think it's rad. Let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.